The 18 Strong Podcast, number 72.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hey, what's up, and welcome back to the 18 Strong Podcast. I want to thank you for being here this week, and for those of you that listened to last week's episode with David McKenzie, I know quite a few of you have been following David for a while, have been listening to his stuff, reading his blog, and several of you reached out to me and told me how much you appreciated getting him on the podcast and hearing his take on the mental game and performance and coaching and all that. So I want to thank you for just the response that you had. And so if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to episode number 71 with David McKenzie. On this week's episode, when I was kind of kicking around the idea of, what topic we should have for this week, I came back to the idea of nutrition. And for one reason, as many of you know, I'm putting together a book, The Golfer's Guide to a Bogey-Proof Workout, and it's very close to being done. In fact, I posted some pictures on Facebook. We're just kind of cleaning up the interior design. We've got the cover done, so we put I put a couple pictures on Facebook, got some nice responses there, but it is very, very close to being done. Now I just got to go through one last time, make sure I didn't put any grammatical or punctuation errors around there, and we'll be getting that baby out and ready for you guys to read. But what I wanted to do was there's a portion in that book that talks about nutrition and the guidelines that I follow, the guidelines that I recommend my clients follow, the listeners. So what I wanted to do was give you guys a bit of a glimpse of what's going to be in the book, but really give you some solid foundational guidelines that I've learned for your own nutrition game. So I've really found that there's several different reasons why people tend to not get control of their nutrition and the way that they eat. And so I've kind of figured out there's 5 big reasons. And the first one I would say is, first, some people just don't have enough information. So they don't know where to get the information. They haven't looked for the information. So they just don't have the right amount of knowledge of what they should be eating, what they shouldn't be eating. The second category that I find people falling into is that they have too much information. We've got the internet, we've got every book out there on different diets, what you should be eating, the Mediterranean diet, the paleo diet, the Atkins diet, all these different things. So there's so much information out there that I find that sometimes it's hard to weave through what you should and shouldn't be listening to. And so that tends to paralyze people, that whole analysis paralysis type thing. So you end up not making a commitment or not making a decision on what you should be eating because you don't know what's right. So you just kind of live in limbo and don't really know what to do. The third category is that you just plain get bad information. I've come across many clients and friends and family that they'll tell me something. I'm like, where did you hear that? Because that's just garbage information. And so, somebody tells me that they found the new Twinkie diet and, this is the newest craze. So, sometimes you just have terrible, terrible information and you follow it blindly, but it's just leading you down the wrong path. So the last 2 I would say are that some people know what they want to do, and this may be you. You know what you should be eating. You know the right things to be putting in your body, when to eat them, but it's about making that final commitment and saying, okay, I'm going to draw the line in the sand. I'm going to stick to this. I'm going to start changing my habits. I live in the real world where there's beer and there's pizza and there's fast food and everything, and I indulge in that stuff every now and then just like everybody else. But it's when you kind of let things just kind of slide and you don't make any real commitments or decisions that, okay, I'm going to start changing a little bit. I'm going to start having a better way of eating, and I'm going to kind of pay a little bit more attention to what I'm putting in my body. So that's another big reason why people don't get a hold of their nutrition is they simply don't commit to getting a hold of their nutrition. And then finally, the last group, and I kind of applaud these people because they're completely honest about it, but I've run across these clients as well where you just don't care. You just don't care that your nutrition's bad, that you're drinking a bunch of alcohol. Obviously, I don't agree with that position, but at least these people are honest with themselves, and they're not trying to fool anybody and say that they're working on this or they're working on that. They just don't plain care. So if you're in that position, if you're in that category, come on back to the good side. We'll help you get your information and get you on the right track when you're ready for it. No shame, no blame. Just come on back. We'll help you out. But what I want you to think about throughout this whole episode today is that I'm not talking about going on a diet. Going on a diet, when you say you're going on a diet, there's the implication that you're going to be going off of a diet. So you're already kind of setting yourself up for failure where, if I'm going to go all in, I'm going to go balls to the wall on this, but that's going to fade and you're going to fall off the wagon. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to shame yourself. You're going to start, going on these binge attacks, all this other crazy stuff. So don't think of this as going on a diet. Think of this as moving towards a better way of eating for the rest of your life. You're going to have your ebbs and your flows. You're going to have your good times. You're going to have your bad times. You're going to have the times where you're, eating junk and, you're not on your A game. And then you're going to have times where you're just rocking it and it's very easy. So realize that happens with all of us in the fitness profession. Some of us are better than others. I tend to ebb and flow as well, so I understand the position. Just look at this as a better way of eating from here on out. So you can feel better, you can play better, you can move better. If you're looking to lose weight, it's going to help you lose weight. If you're looking to get stronger, get more bulk, it's going to do those things. But you have to kind of have a plan and have a commitment to that. So I found that there's a couple different types of coaches out there that I've run across that I would say I'm neither one. You've got the hard-nosed Gestapo type coach, which is like, you can't eat anything that's, not on the paleo diet, or you can't eat anything that isn't raised on a free-range farm with grass-fed butter, and that style coach where there's no in between. It's black or white. Yes, you did it. No, you didn't. Then you've got the other coach who is the sensitive, empathetic coach. Oh, I know you're trying. I know that hot dog that you ate at the turn was it made you feel better. You were famished. You didn't eat beforehand. So the understanding coach. And I find that when a coach lets a client get away with that, you're just kind of enabling them to make poor decisions. So you're going to find me kind of right in the middle, not quite all the way down to the empathetic side, not quite all the way up to the hard-nosed coach, but I feel like if you have to be ready to make your decision, you have to be ready to commit to making these nutritional choices. And if you're not ready for it, then you're going to continue to slip and make those poor choices. So it's something that I preach is having cut and dried guidelines is a very simple way to really kind of get you on the right track and let you know where you need to be going, let you know kind of a checklist of, okay, am I doing this or am I not? And then that gives you the guidelines to make better choices throughout the day. Because if you don't have those guidelines set up, then you're most likely just going to kind of waver with your decisions. You're going to go off target a little bit here and there. So in order to really kind of get the point across here, I want to tell you a little story. I'm going to tell you about the time that I got fat. And for me, obviously I'm a fitness professional. I'm not a Hulk. I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm 5'9". I fluctuate between the 160 maybe to the 170 point, and at varying body fat levels, depending on how good I am with my workouts and my nutrition. So there was a time about a little over 2 years ago when I was still working at, we have our gym, Elevated Performance, and my wife was about 8 months pregnant or so, and we were actually currently in the process of redoing our house. We were kind of renovating our kitchen, so we had to move out of our house. We were living with my in-laws. We lived with them for about 3 months while my wife was at the tail end of her pregnancy. Actually had our son Grant while she had him at the hospital, but we were still living at my in-laws' house. So we had a ton of stuff going on. I was coming down to the house. I'd work at the gym. I'd go to my in-laws to eat dinner with the kids. I'd come back down to my house to do a little work. We had a contractor that was doing some of the work. I was doing some of the work. So crazy, crazy time in my life. And I slowly started to kind of let things slide. It's real easy when your schedule's off, you're in a different situation, you start eating worse, I was grabbing a pizza on the way in, or after finishing a long night of, hanging drywall or cabinets or whatever, it was easy to have a couple of beers with the contractor and, just kind of talk about what's going on in the house. And it seemed like that just started to slowly slip. And, those habits just kind of kept getting worse, and it started to creep into my daily eating routine and lack of workouts. I was putting in a lot of extra time after hours, and it was hard to get the energy to do the workouts. And so all of this stuff kind of snowballed. I'm sure you can kind of relate to this situation. And so I finally decided to talk to my buddy, Tony Soib, who was also training at our place at the time. And Tony is one of these guys who just knows nutrition. He's one of the best strength coaches I've come across. And so I said, Tony, I need you to kind of hold me accountable here. And so what we did was he ended up taking my body fat, which I think had gotten up to around normally I'll usually fluctuate around the 12 to 15% range. So I'm not a fitness model by any means, but a lean athletic build. I got up around, I think it was the 22% range. So I know my buddy Ollie Foster in the UK, who's a body composition coach, is probably cringing right now at that number 22%, which, of course, if you looked at me, you wouldn't say, oh my God, look at, he's such a slovenly person. But for me, for my build, and for what I know myself as, I definitely felt it. You look in the mirror and you can just tell you're not on your A game. And so that's where I was. So long story short, within 3 months of workouts, pretty solid workouts, nutrition, I committed, and I dropped, I think 11 to 12% of that off in less than 3 months. And a huge difference. I got down pretty lean. I was around the 10% range, which was super lean for me. And it just really felt good. But the most important part was that I really felt a sense of accomplishment. And there were 3 things that made this work. The first is the guidelines that I'm going to share with you today, the nutritional guidelines, which I think basically following these 10 principles will help anyone improve their nutritional game. The second was I worked my friggin' tail off in my workouts. I had a very structured program, and I was working out 4 to 5 days a week, training very hard, primarily with weights, some heavier weights, some heavier volume, and surprisingly, or this might surprise you, I did very little cardio over these 3 months, but it was the combination of the very solid and structured workout program that I was on and just sticking with my nutritional guidelines. And then the third, and maybe the most important, was having my accountability partner, having Tony kind of looking over my shoulder, checking my body fat every week or every other week. He was, kind of keeping an eye on my diet or helping me figure out, okay, what am I eating this week? And then, he was actually, I even had him design my workouts, because sometimes as a fitness professional, it's nice to have somebody else put together your workouts that you can just follow, because I knew he would give me the challenging stuff that I wouldn't give myself. So what I want to share with you today are the nutritional guidelines that I followed nearly to a T throughout those 3 months, and it made the world of difference. And I wish that I could say I came up with these guidelines and I'm a super smart nutritionist, but I'm not. I'm not a nutritionist at all, and I don't play one on the podcast. But there's a website, precisionnutrition.com, that if you haven't been on Precision Nutrition, I would highly recommend you go in there. They put out some of the greatest content as far as nutritional advice and answering questions, and they've got a certification program for nutritional coaches, which I think is one of the best out there. So if you're looking for somebody in the nutrition game and you see that they are Precision Nutrition certified, you know that they've done some homework and they've gone through a nice, well-structured program. So Precision Nutrition was started by Dr. John Berardi, who is from Canada. I believe worked with a lot of the Canadian hockey teams, and he actually is or was a board member for TPI, working with the golfers and helping them with their nutritional stuff as well. But I've just found that his stuff really resonates with me and is very much in line with my philosophies as far as how to eat. He's never on one end of the spectrum as far as going on some crazy diet. It's all about just eating well, eating sensible, and finding the right stuff for you. So there's 10 principles here that I'm going to give you. And actually, I think I kind of added on the 10th one, but the first 9 are pretty much straight out of Dr. Berardi's Precision Nutrition Handbook, which is a phenomenal resource as well. So the first one that I'm going to recommend is that you should eat often. Eat every 2 to 3 hours. Now, there has been, over the last year or maybe even 2 years, there's been some studies coming out about intermittent fasting and, going for longer periods of time without eating, and that can help with fat loss and different things. And there's validity in that for sure. But I think just for the general public and for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to recommend that you eat often for several reasons. Just because it keeps you from getting hungry, and therefore keeps you from kind of binging at certain meals or after work, those type of things. When you eat often, you also keep your blood sugar levels at a much more steady level. And therefore, you're not getting highs and lows in energy. You're not getting highs and lows in your insulin and sugar levels, which just kind of keeps your mental clarity. And as far as playing golf and working out, it just allows you to stay at a much more even keel position with your energy levels throughout the day and on the course. Number 2, I want you to eat complete and lean protein every time you eat. And so what I mean by complete and lean protein is typically going to be, for me, and I'll kind of speak from the way that I eat, it's going to be some sort of animal-based product, animal-based protein, chicken, fish, beef, elk, bison, turkey, eggs, all these different kinds of lean proteins. Also, I'll throw protein powder in there as far as, mixing up a protein shake, but I want to clarify that I don't want protein powders and supplements to ever dominate your diet. Those are exactly what they say they are. They're supplements. So protein powder, in my mind, is to be used either directly after your workout to help with recovery, or if you're in a pinch, like for myself, when I'm training on the floor and I've got a lot of clients in a row and I know I'm not going to get a chance to eat, I'll have a protein shake just to get some substance in me and to make sure that I get that protein in. But I typically find that many individuals, females especially, are very low on their protein intake, and that's a big one as far as just body composition, but also keeping your muscles strong, because if you don't have enough protein in your system, your body's not going to be able to maintain your muscle mass. If you don't maintain your muscle mass, it's going to be harder to burn. It's going to be harder for your metabolism to work as well as you want it to. So definitely eat complete and lean protein, and that's every time you eat. You want to think of your meals throughout the day, as Dr. Berardi would say, as eating opportunities. And so every time you have an opportunity to eat, I want you to have some protein in that meal. Okay, number 3 is every time you eat, every time you have that eating opportunity, I want you to eat some sort of vegetable. And this includes breakfast. So yes, every time you eat, I want you to have some sort of a vegetable on your plate. So at my house, I eat a lot of eggs. I tend to eat 5 eggs in the morning. I'll throw some spinach in there. I'll either scramble them up or I'll cover them up and let them kind of cook a little bit over easy. But I will, if I don't have spinach in an omelet or something like that, I'll have some broccoli that's left over from the night before. And so it's not uncommon to see in my house, even my kids. My kids are 7, 5, and 2. Every morning they have a vegetable. It's either broccoli or frozen peas or carrots or something, and they don't know the difference. They don't realize that most people would think that's weird, but they have some sort of a protein, hopefully. We do slip sometimes because it's easier to do some cereal and toast and stuff like that every now and then, but ideally some form of protein and a vegetable on the plate, even for breakfast. So could be chicken in the morning, could be steak in the morning, it could be whatever, salmon, but protein, veggies, every time you eat. The fourth guideline that I've got for you is I want you to think about carbs and you eating your carbs. I want you to think about earning your carbs. So carbs aren't bad. Carbs have gotten a bad rap over the last few years, and mainly because most of the carbs that people are eating, if you walk through the aisles of a grocery store, it's a carb fest. But all of those carbs that you see in the boxes and the bags, the chips, the pretzels, the cereals, all that stuff, those are all what I kind of call garbage carbs. They're either highly processed, they're super sugary, and so we overdo that kind of stuff, and it's all in the wrong form of carbohydrates. The carbs that I prefer and that I recommend you eating are vegetables. Vegetables are loaded with carbs, but they're not the ones that are going to spike your blood sugar and cause you to have all these crazy waves in your energy levels. It's the pastas, the breads, the cereals, again, the muffins, anything you can find in a coffee shop, the cake pops. Those cake pops are delicious, though. But all of that stuff is the carbs that, are more on the bad end of the spectrum. They've got a lot of sugars in them. So when you're going to eat some sort of carb, again, breads, pastas, those things aren't terrible. But I want you to think about earning them. So if you're going to be eating some of those things, I'm a good Italian boy. I like my pasta every now and then. I like my bread. But what I want you to think about is earn it. So if you worked out that day, if you trained that day and you got after it, then a couple hours after your workout, feel free to have some carbs. Have some of the bread or pasta or stuff like that. But if you're looking to lose weight or get leaner, I should say, then I'm going to suggest that you kind of lay off of those things, which is exactly what I did when I was, going through this 3-month period of really working on improving my body composition, or in another way to say it is to decrease my body fat. The biggest thing I did was cut out pretty much all of these things except for at certain times. And then I had my veggies, my proteins, all that stuff. But I really cut out a lot of the breads, the pastas, and then the alcoholic drinks, beers, wine, that type of stuff. So the carbs are definitely going to cause fluctuations in your bloodstream and in your sugar levels. And I just find that when I eat this type of stuff, or when I get on the habit of eating it more often, it makes me tired. It makes me feel less productive, and I just don't feel great. So really limiting that stuff and knowing when you're eating it is a big deal. Now, on the other hand, the fifth guideline that I have for you is I want you to eat healthy fats. So just like their carbs aren't bad, but there are good carbs and bad carbs, same with fats. Fats can be a very, very good thing, and it's kind of a bad name for them because we now think of fat as like the fat on our body. But fats in foods are just another source of energy. And so again, there are different fats that we overdo, and that, like the French fries, the oil and stuff that we're eating through, fried chicken and that type of stuff. Those kind of fats, the hydrogenated oils and things like that, those are what are causing the fat to be stored on our body. But when you eat good fats like avocados, raw nuts, The fat in fish is very healthy. And coconut oil, that's one that I'm really big on. And I cook pretty much everything that I cook or saute or whatever. I use a lot of coconut oil, which is excellent for brain function and just energy levels. So put some of that stuff into your diet. Having decent amounts of fat in your diet are good. Having a little bit of carbs in your diet is fine. It's when you start to eat a lot of fats and a lot of those sugary, starchy carbs that you run into problems. When you combine the two of those, that's kind of a deadly recipe. So another thing on the fats I want you to be aware of is, there is this whole low-fat, no-fat craze with everything pretty much in the supermarket aisles. When I see low-fat, the terms low-fat or no-fat on something, to me it basically says they stripped it of the fat and they put it in some other garbage to make it taste good. Usually it's going to be something sugar-related or some chemical to make it sweeter or make it taste a little bit better. So when I see low-fat or no-fat, I think processed. I think chemically induced. So just take that as a word of caution there. Okay, the sixth guideline is water, coffee, or green tea. Water, coffee, or green tea. I love my coffee. I drink coffee every single morning, and usually I'll have another cup of coffee throughout the day at some point, which when I'm on my game, I kind of cut out the coffee during the day and I switch over to green tea. But I'm okay with having a little extra coffee. It's the sugary sport drinks that I want you to avoid, the no sugar sodas, the no-calorie sodas, the diet sodas, all that stuff where they're labeling things to make it sound like it's healthy and good. That usually tells you that they've done something to make it taste better so they can put that label on the can or on the bottle. So really stick with these three. Water obviously is the number one. Just to stay hydrated, keep your body, keep your brain functioning properly. I want you to stick with water, coffee, and green tea. Green tea has caffeine in it. It's a little more subtle than the caffeine you're going to get from coffee. So that's why I say that I typically will switch to green tea in the afternoon when I'm doing really well. But stick with these three. They have, little to no calories in them whatsoever and no sugar added. So those are the things that are going to keep you hydrated. They're going to satiate you as far as, being thirsty. And they're gonna keep your brain and body working, just like everything else that we've talked about. It's all about making your brain work better, make your body work better, and just treat yourself with good stuff. As far as the caffeine goes, you want to kind of curtail that a little bit towards the afternoon. Anything after 2 or 3 o'clock can actually affect you throughout the afternoon, throughout the evening, and even into your sleep patterns because it messes with your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, and some of the other hormones that really affect, the rhythms of your sleep. So we had Sean Stevenson on from the Model Health Show a while back, I think episode number 21. He talked a lot about sleep on that episode and the effects of caffeine and just the effects of your hormones on your ability to sleep and get good quality sleep. So check out that episode if you want a little bit more information on that. And another thing that I learned from Sean is the concept of what he calls an inner bath. And that's just basically hydrating yourself in the morning. So when you get up in the morning, I do this every single morning, thanks to my wife usually because she kind of gets the tea kettle ready and gets the lemon on the counter. But every morning we drink warm lemon water. And about, 20 ounces, 24 ounces or so. I've got my big mason jar. And I squeeze a half a lemon in there, pour some hot water in there or pretty warm water, and just kind of flushes the system and makes you, rehydrates you from the hours of sleep that you've got, and it just kind of sets your body up they say it helps kind of achieve more alkaline state in your body, but it just is a very cleansing habit to have to really kind of start your day right. So I recommend taking your inner bath in the morning. And again, Sean and I kind of talk about that a little bit on episode 21. All right, the next thing on the list is number 7, eat as many whole foods as possible. Our whole society is riddled with way too much processed food. Again, walking into a grocery store, all you see is boxes and bags. Anything in boxes and bags was processed and produced somewhere in a factory. The more you can start eating whole foods that were grown in the ground or that walk on the ground, the better off you're going to be. So if you're a vegan, you're a vegetarian, or you're a meat lover like me, you're a paleo person, I don't care what your preference is. I actually think it's cool that there are so many different preferences. I think there's no one perfect way to eat. But you could be a vegan and you can be a vegetarian and live on Doritos or Oreos. So it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you have a different preference that your preference is going to contain great food. So make sure you know what your sources are. Every Saturday we go to I say we, but when I say we, I mean my wife goes to the farmer's market here in St. Louis, and she talks to the local farmers, asks them about their product, asks them about, are they using chemicals? Are they allowing the chickens to run around on a daily basis, or whatever, whatever questions. But get to know where your food's coming from, because the more wholesome it is, the less stress it's going to put on your body. If there are a lot of chemicals that are being used to prevent insects, things like that, that can affect the quality of the food. It can reduce the vitamins and nutrients that are in the food, but also it can make it more difficult for your body to process that stuff. If there's chemicals in the food, your body won't recognize that and then has to figure out what that substance is and then what it should do with that substance. So having better quality foods allows your body to function better, allows you to recover better, think faster, react better, and ultimately, the reason you're here, play better golf while you're out on the course. So I've got a couple resources that I want to recommend to you regarding this whole food dilemma that we have. The first one is a book that kind of opened my eyes to the quality of food and what farms are doing, what grocery stores are doing, what these different food and processing plants are doing, and that's The Omnivore's Dilemma. I think the author's name is Michael Pollan, but it just kind of opened my eyes to what's really going on in the food industry. The second is, as I mentioned before, Precision Nutrition by Dr. John Berardi, who is the one that came up with these principles. And again, I can't speak highly enough of him. He's got incredible information on his website, Precision Nutrition. Then Sean Stevenson, who we just mentioned from episode 21, has the Model Health Show. And Sean's a good buddy of mine. He's actually here in St. Louis, but his podcast is definitely my favorite podcast in the health and fitness world. It's been number one in iTunes multiple times. And Sean is he's a fitness and nutrition expert, and just one of those guys that researches things to the nth degree and is just extremely, extremely well educated in the world of nutrition. And I kind of looked at him and talked to him about certain things just to kind of get his take on what's going on in the nutrition world. The next resource is kind of a selfish resource to give my lovely bride, Susan, a little credibility here, is her website, her blog, Edibly Enlightened, which is basically talking about, the way that we eat here in our house and, the things that she's learned. She has done a lot of studying and research on just, eating a cleaner, healthier lifestyle. So if you want a little glimpse into what goes on at our household, you can check out ediblyenlightened.com. And she's got several recipes on there. She talks about the green drinks, those type of things, the inner bath, all that. And then, of course, the final resource is the 18 Strong podcast, where we've had great guests, Robert Yang, Michael Monavian, Mark Smith, Sean Stevenson. I'll link all those up so you have those episodes. All right. I finally have one that I think you're going to like. Guideline number 8 is I want you to plan on cheating on this whole eating program. And the reason I say that is if you don't cheat, if you don't plan on cheating, you're going to drive yourself absolutely crazy. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has enough willpower to stick to this 100% for the rest of their life. It's impossible. If you tried it, you would go crazy. You would quit. You'd go on a binge diet, binge drinking, whatever, and it just doesn't work. We're not meant to do anything 100%. So it's been shown, and Dr. Berardi talks about this a lot, that eating at 90% of perfect is not much different than eating at 100% perfect. So when you're on an eating program and you're looking at this diet, if you're 90% perfect, your results are going to be just about as good as if you're 100%. Plus, mentally, you're going to be much more sane and you're going to be much more likely to stick to this. So what I'm going to suggest, though, is just be realistic as to what 90% is, because sometimes when people hear, oh, you can cheat a little bit, then they give them an inch and they'll take a mile. So let's be realistic. If you're eating, let's say, 3 meals a day, which is the typical, if you're eating 3 meals a day and you break that down to cheating 10% of the time, that's 2 of your meals of that week, 2 of your 21 meals that week. So 2 of those you can cheat on. And when I say cheat, I mean following these guidelines. But if you also skip a meal, that's considered cheating as well, because not eating can be just as bad as eating the wrong thing. So, and if you're eating 5 meals a day, it's going to be 3.5 meals. So let's round up, give you 4 meals that you can cheat on. But enjoy those meals, have fun. When I was doing this rock solid for those 3 months, I looked forward to my cheat meals and I kind of planned them out. It became a game to me. But you try to go as long as you can, then you have your cheat meals and you have a good cheat meal, and it was great. So plan on cheating. Number 9 may be the most important one of the bunch. It's possibly the most effective one that's going to allow the rest of these things to happen, and that's create the habit of preparation. And I'm not going to lie to you, this is where most people get stuck. In fact, this is where I typically get stuck. When I kind of fall off a little bit, it's because I struggle with the prep work. It's not getting my meals ready ahead of time, or not shopping and making sure that I have the right things in the fridge. Because if you don't have the right stuff in the fridge or the pantry, you're going to reach for whatever you got, or you're simply going to skip your meals. So 3 people that I know that are rock stars in the meal prep work, and you can check them out on Facebook, are Allie Gilbert, Mike Subak, and Don Saladino. If you want to see some people prepping their meals, Mike's got some epic posts on there about, what he's cooking on Sundays, how he's prepping it. So Mike, Allie, Don, kudos to you guys, because you guys are definitely living the lifestyle and showing people how to do it. So check them out on Facebook to get some ideas. They've always got great ideas, great posts as far as what you can do to plan for your week. But me personally, when I'm on it, but I was born with the gift of procrastination, so there are many times when I end up kind of slipping off of that. And much like you, then you end up scrambling, then you're more likely to make a bad decision. So get in the habit of getting your prep work done. So there's 2 solutions that I found that work really well. First, like I see Mike, Allie, and Don doing a lot, is the weekly prep. So maybe on Saturday or on Sunday, you cook up a bunch of food. You plan it out, you go to the store, you buy what you need for the week, you cook it up there. I've done this where I've got a grill full of chicken. I'll cook that up. I'll cook a bunch of broccoli or asparagus or whatever. I've got all my veggies. I've got my protein ready for the week. I'll mix it up. I'll have a couple different protein sources. Put it in some Tupperware, put it in the fridge, and you're ready to go. Now, I know that takes a special individual to do that week in and week out. There are also a lot of these popping up, these food delivery services. And so this kind of depends on how much money you have to spend. If you have the ability to, throw out some dough to have somebody deliver some of these meals to you, this can be a lifesaver. And I've had several clients do this. And I think, sometimes it boils down to not much more than $100 to $200 a week, at least here in our market. And you can get, 2 meals a day delivered. You can get 3 meals a day delivered. You can get it 5 days a week. You can get 7 days a week. So there are a lot of different companies that have gone to this food delivery service. And I'm not talking like Jenny Craig and Weight Watcher stuff. I'm talking real whole food that they have a chef prepare. They've got a kitchen. They prepare it. They put it in a refrigerated bag. They deliver it to your door every 1 or 2 days. And you've got real meals that are portioned right. They've got the right amount of proteins, fats, carbs, all that stuff. So you don't even have to think about it. So look up your food delivery service if that's something that you think is going to be good for you, because I know that there's a lot of great options out there. If you're in the St. Louis area or around this area, I've got some suggestions for you. Just kind of reach out and we can help you get there. All right, and then the last one, number 10, which is kind of an add-on here, but I want you to supplement your nutrition appropriately. So there's supplements all over the place, and this could be several podcasts talking about supplements and quality and all that. So first of all, you want to make sure that you know whatever supplements you're taking are pharmaceutical grade, just because there's a lot of mixing and matching and underhanded stuff going on in the supplement world where you don't necessarily always know what's in your product because it's not a very well-regulated industry. So first of all, I'm going to say that. Make sure it's a pharmaceutical grade product. Make sure it's a company that has been recommended by somebody that you trust. Before we get into, and we're really not going to get into a whole lot of supplement stuff here because, like I said, I'm not a nutritionist. This is not my specialty, and there are people that are way smarter at this stuff than me. But first and foremost, I want you, again, to think of the whole foods. Whole foods are your primary source of nutrition. Supplements are exactly that. They're meant to supplement on top of your nutrition. So go for the first 9 guidelines here that I already gave you and try to rock those 90% of the time. When you get that stuff down, then that's when I would say you can start looking into the nutritional stuff. But let's try to get the basics down. Now, I am a believer in supplements. I take supplements. The ones that I primarily take, or that I'm taking right now, I take a multivitamin, I take a fish oil, I'm taking a little bit of magnesium, some zinc. I tend to take vitamin D in the wintertime when the sun goes down and starts getting cold, and then I will do a protein shake typically right after my workouts. And that's what I've found works for me. I have my trusted resources that have, given me reasons why to take what I'm taking. So what I'm going to recommend here is that you find somebody that you trust to give you some information on supplementation. I am not the guy to give you that. By all means, Allie Gilbert, Michael Monavian, I had them on the podcast many moons ago. I'll link up their episodes as well. They're up at Greenwich Sports. I butcher that every time I try to say it. Greenwich Diagnostics Sports Lab. Just go to the show notes, 18strong.com, and I will have their information there. They do blood testing. They do all that stuff. There are several other people, Robert Yang, Mark Smith. I'm sure they can help out. So find somebody that can give you better information on what supplements you might want to take, but stick with these guidelines for, kind of your nutritional Bible moving forward, and you'll be, like I said, you're going to be on the right track. All right, so those are basically the 10 guidelines, kind of a compilation of precision nutrition, a little bit of an add-on from us here at 18 Strong, but that's what I want you to follow. So I know that this is obviously a golf fitness podcast, so one last thing that I want to touch on is just a little bit of on-course nutrition, or actually pre-round, in-round, post-round nutrition. So just very briefly, as some basic guidelines for before your round of golf, I want you to eat just like we talked about. I want a good, solid, wholesome meal 1 to 2 hours before you go on the course if you have the opportunity. So that's going to be some sort of a protein. That's going to be, so that for me, that would be like a meat or eggs, chicken, fish, whatever it might be. Some sort of veggies or a low glycemic fruit, and then some sort of good fat. So the meat is basically going to help reduce your hunger when you're on the course later on, and it's going to boost your brain function. So you're thinking a lot sharper. You can make better decisions when you're out on the course. The veggies and the low glycemic fruits are going to help maintain that blood sugar level to keep you from going up and down, the highs and lows in your energy level, but it's also going to help give you a little bit of energy out on the course. And then the good fats also, again, are readily available energy that is there for you to use, especially for your mental game. The good quality fats can keep you very sharp and on your toes. So when you're in the round, preparing for being on the golf course, The main goal here is simply to allow yourself to stay focused on your round, to make good, solid decisions. So your meal choices need to be simple, but they need to be effective. So if you ate your good, solid meal 1 to 2 hours before your round, you don't need a ton of food and nutrition out on the course. Some people overdo it, some people underdo it. So you got to kind of find what's right for you. But the 3 things that I'm going to definitely recommend that you have on the course, first is that you're hydrating. Make sure you have a lot of water out there, but with your water, I want you to combine in there some sort of electrolytes and branched-chain amino acids, which there's some good drinks, some powdered drinks out on the market. There's BioSteel makes a great one. Golf Fuel is another one that I know of. So different electrolytes and branched-chain amino drinks, which basically help keep you hydrated, help maintain your mental acuity, and help keep you from breaking down your muscle tissue while you're out on the course, especially if it's hot and you're walking and carrying a bag or whatever you're doing. So just stay away from the sugary sports drinks. Not a big fan of the Gatorades, the Powerades, all that stuff. The other thing you can do is, if you just have water, add a little pinch of Celtic sea salt in there, and that's going to help maintain some of the vitamins and nutrients that you need better than just plain old water would. So that's the first thing, stay hydrated. Second would be to have some sort of raw nuts. Again, these are going to have good fats. They're going to have a little bit of carbs, so it's going to help with the energy. It's going to help with the brain. And so I'm thinking almonds, walnuts, pecans, hazelnuts, macadamia nuts. Peanuts are okay. They're not really nuts, so I tend to stay away from those. But anything that I'd already mentioned, but make sure that it's the raw kind. That's going to be better. It's obviously more natural, but it's going to help. The fats are going to be better than that. And then lastly, as your protein source, I love beef jerky. I love the simplicity of it. You can pull it out. It's not greasy. It gives you your protein source. So it's going to help you maintain your mental function. So beef jerky, again, quality is a big issue. So you're going to find that some beef jerky, you look at the package, there's 100 different ingredients, half of them chemically induced, and then you're going to find some others. One of the brands that we've kind of partnered up with is Epic Provisions, where you look at the back of their bag of beef jerky, and there's like 6 ingredients, and it's going to be, sea salt, beef, water, celery, that kind of stuff that you recognize and that you can actually eat on its own. So again, quality is a big deal. And then lastly, post-round nutrition is mainly just to make sure that you're getting a speedy recovery. So especially if you're playing tournament golf, you're on a guy's trip or something like that, you want to make sure that you eat something right after the round or pretty close to after the round. So if you have the opportunity to actually eat a real meal, I'd go for a real meal where you're getting your protein, you're getting your veggies. You could even go with a little bit of carbs or something there to kind of get your energy levels back up. But if you're in a pinch or if you're playing another round of golf, sometimes I'll bring a protein shake. Just bring the powder, mix it up right afterwards. That way you're getting at least some good quality protein. You're getting some of the branched-chain amino acids to help you recover a little faster. So I hope all this helps. I know that there was a lot of information in here. I have the information on the show notes page where you can go there and you can download the 10 principles and you can get all the stuff that I talked about today. But these are the things that it's not rocket science, but we tend to take all the nutritional information that's out there and get confused by it, or we just kind of negate it, or we just decide not to commit to it. So take these, there's extremes of everything, the low carb diet, the high carb diet, all this stuff. What I want you to understand and what I've come to learn is there's a happy medium. The real ways of eating is pretty much coming to some sort of a balance in between and just figuring out what's right for you. And everybody's going to be a little bit different. So depending on what your goals are, your nutritional strategies will have to change, and that's when you seek out some other advice from highly qualified individuals. So I'll let you guys know when the book is going to be ready. Like I said, it's coming very soon. Just finishing up some of the last details on the way that it looks inside, the Golfer's Guide to a Bogey-Proof Workout, so that will be coming very soon. If you want the show notes, go to 18strong.com. This is episode number 72. You can check that out. You'll get all the notes, the downloads, the guidelines, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I will catch you on next week's version of the 18 Strong podcast. Look forward to any comments that you have on social media. And again, if you have a second, we love having you go over to iTunes, leave a rating and review. Definitely helps the show. So thanks again. Train hard, practice smart, play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.